Welcome to chapter 38 of the book of Jeremiah, which is pretty much a expansion of chapter 37 we saw in the last chapter, where Jeremiah was taken, put into the pit, and then he came back to the king, and he released him and put him into the courtyard. Here it goes into that a little more in detail. As we see, it begins, and Saphan is the Greek word, Shephatiah, son of Mathan. Now, the Shephatiah is what's in the King James, and I pretty much kept with all the King James names because everybody is familiar with them. And to change all the names around to sound like the Greek would be confusing for people that already know a lot of these names. And Jesus, Jesus, it would be Joshua. He's called Joshua in the book of Joshua, the Jesus name, and other places, Yeshua, and then Jesus. And the names get to be pretty confusing. So here, Saphan, but it's Shephatiah was in the King James, but the King James came from the Hebrew, so I'm not sure how they came up with these different names back in the 1611 or so. But anyway, this person heard, and Godolias, the son of Pashur, and Yochal, son of Shelemiah, and there's another Pashur, and Pashur, son of Malchiah, the words which Jeremiah spoken to the people, saying, now let me see, what was the other Pashur? It was son of Gedaliah, son of Pashur. So apparently then this Pashur is a son of Malchiah, and that was a grandson. The words which Jeremiah spoke unto the people, saying, this is what Jeremiah said, thus said the Lord, the one dwelling in this city shall die by the broadsword, and by famine, and by pestilence, and the one going forth to the Chaldeans shall live, and his life shall be for gain, and he shall live. So God is giving them a way out for life, but many don't take it. And they're not allowed to because of the rulers not allowing people to leave. That's what happened with Jeremiah. He went to take care of his property, but they arrested him as fleeing to the Chaldeans. So the clergy and the rulers were keeping the people within Jerusalem and causing the death of many people. And it happens so often where the rulers are the ones that are doing the evil, but then the people suffer. We see that over and over again in Soviet Union with Stalin, and then over in Germany with Hitler, and the things that they did. Stalin with his anti-Christian, atheistic setup of communism, and Hitler with his anti-Jewish way of wanting to eliminate the Jews from Europe, and all these bad things were happening, and millions of people lost their lives. And then it continues, so, for thus said the Lord, in being delivered up, this city shall be delivered up into the hands of the force of the king of Babylon, the dynamite, the derivative, and he, the king, shall seize it. And the ruler said to the king, well, do away with that man indeed, for he enfeebles the hands of the men waging war, being left in the city, and the hands of all the people, by speaking to them according to these words. For the man does not speak oracles for peace to this people, but only evils. That reminds me here, when I read that, we'll go here to Matthew 26:1. It came to pass when Jesus finished all these words, he said to his disciples, you know that after 2 days the Passover takes place, and the Son of Man is delivered up for crucifying. Then gathered together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people, into the courtyard of the chief priest, being called Caiaphas, and they were advising that they should seize Jesus by treachery and should kill him. But they said, well, not during the holiday, that a tumult should not take place among the people. So these people, these Jews, the rulers, have continued with their way of dealing with righteousness by trying to kill anything that God sends their way. The prophets and Jesus, and now Israel is back as a country again, and we'll see what happens, how they deal with the world, how they deal with other people that are like Christians, and fairly, or if they end up turning, and we'll find out all about that soon here, I believe. And so anyway, they wanted to do away with that man as they wanted to do away with Jesus. For this man does not speak oracles for peace to this people, but only evils. Well, he was giving the word of God, and the word of God was not evil. It was a peace for those people that left. They would they wouldn't die in all these ways of starvation and by the sword and famine and so forth. And King Zedekiah said, behold, he is in your hands. For the king was not able to resist them. And basically, that's another thing that happened with Jesus. We didn't have, the king wanted to get rid of Jesus, but yet he was not in power. The Romans were, and the Roman ruler was Pontius Pilate, and Pontius Pilate saw Jesus as being guilty, but he wasn't able to resist the pressure that they put on him to crucify him, the same as this King Zedekiah wasn't able to resist them as far as what they wanted to do. And they took hold of Jeremiah and tossed him into the pit of Malchiah, son of the king, which was in the courtyard of the guard. Well, we mentioned that in the last chapter, that he was sent into the pit, and then we know he came to the king, and now we find out how that took place. And they let him down with rough cords into the pit. And in the pit there was not either, hydro comes from that, but only vorvaros. And it's terrible because it's like sewage. And I don't even like thinking about how bad it would be to be in that. But that is what that word means. You can check it in other places in the Bible, number 1004, and double check to see if I'm correct or not. I wish I wasn't. And he was in the Vorvaro. And Abdelmelech, the Ethiops eunuch man, heard, and he was in the courtyard of the king, that they cast Jeremiah into the pit. And the king was sitting down at the gate of Benjamin. And Abdelmelech went forth from out of the house of the king and spoke to the king and said, my master, Kyrie, O king, all these men did wickedly, in which they did against Jeremiah the prophet, prophetu, prophet, transliteration there, dropping him into the pit, that he should die in it from the face of hunger, for there are not yet breads in the city. So the breads was scarce or not there, very few. And the king gave charge to Abdelmelech, saying, take with yourself from here 30 men, and lead him from out of the pit, that he should not die. So they take these cords. It says, and Abdelmelech took the men, and he entered into the house of the king, the subterranean part, and he took from there old rags and old rough cords, and he tossed them to Jeremiah in the pit. Basically, he made a rope. And he said to Jeremiah, put these underneath the rough cords. And Jeremiah did so. So he put the softer clothes, the wool or whatever they were made out of, and then the rough cords under there. And pretty far down apparently, and they drew him with the rough cords and led him up from out of the pit. And Jeremiah stayed in the courtyard of the guard, and that's where 37 ends. But then in 37, the king calls him, and here it goes into a little bit more detail of what happened there, of the King Zedekiah calling Jeremiah. And the king sent and called him, Jeremiah, to himself into the house of Asaliel, in the house of the Lord. So somehow this was in the temple area. King went there, and the king said to him, well, I shall ask you a word, Logon, and you shall not hide from me the Rima. Now we got both of these. You should not, it's a saying here, a word of the Logon. Sometimes a Rima could be a word. You could say, and you shall not hide from me the word. But a Rima is different. So I try to separate the two, not use the same one, but sometimes it's pretty hard to do it. And Crypsis, we have a crypt where they put the dead bodies and so forth. And Jeremiah said to the king, well, if I should announce, there's the Alpha Gamma Gamma I've mentioned before. Whenever you see that Alpha Gamma Gamma, generally has something to do with a message. Here it's an announcement of the angel. Anga comes from that. If I should announce to you, will you not put me to death? And if I shall advise you, in no way shall you hear me. No way shall you hearken to me. Listen to, he's going to hear him, but he's not going to do it. Hearken, basically, is a better word there. And the king swore by an oath to him secretly, Creephi, saying, as the Lord lives, who appointed, see, now here's 4160, the verb to do. So you wouldn't do his life. As the Lord lives, who did to us this life. No, you wouldn't use it. So I use the word appointed. So like I said, there's many English words for that one word, 4160. If you look it up in the English derivative, in the lexical concordance at the end of the Apostolic Bible, as the Lord lives, who appointed us to this life, shall I kill you? And this E generally takes a negative. Shall I kill you? No. Shall I put you into the hands of these men? There's another E. Seeking your life? I put the no so a person would know that he's not really questioning him, but it's a rhetorical question, basically. And Jeremiah said to him, thus said the Lord of the Dynamion, the forces, the Theos Israel, if by going forth you should go forth to the hegemonos, a hegemon, the rulers of the Vasileos Vavilonos, your psyche soul shall live. And this polis, city, in no way shall be incinerated in Piri, or by fire, in fire, pyre, pyromaniac. And you shall live, and your Ikea family. But if you do not go forth, this city shall be given into the hands of the Chaldeans, and they shall burn it with fire, and you in no way shall be delivered from their hands. And we will find out more in the following chapters of how that takes place. And the king said to Jeremiah, well, I have a matter with the Jews having fled to the Chaldeans, that is the ones in Babylon, lest they give me into their hands, and they shall deride me. He's afraid that the Babylonians, if he gives up to the Babylonians, they'll give him to the hands of the Jews that are over there in Babylon, and they'll do away with him or treat him harshly. And Jeremiah said, well, in no way shall they deliver you up. Hearken to the word of the Lord, which I speak to. He's almost begging him to listen to it. In the imperative, hearken to the word of the Lord, which I speak to you. Do it. Just give up. And it will be better to you. And your soul shall live. And if you do not want to come forth, well, this is the word which the Lord showed to me. Okay. Behold, all the women being left behind in the house of the king of Judah, having been led out to the rulers of the king of Babylon, these women shall say, the men at peace with you deceived you and prevailed over you. The women will turn against Zedekiah, and they will depose you in slips of your feet, being captured. Basically, they turned from you. And he will be captured, and they will turn against him anyway. And your wives and your children they shall lead out to the Chaldeans, and you in no way shall you be delivered, for by the hand of the king of Babylon you shall be seized. And this city shall be incinerated. Well, it's terrible things, but God is giving a last chance to Zedekiah, but he doesn't take it. And a lot of people are old, and somebody comes and brings them the truth, and they can take it or they can reject it. So many people, when they get fairly old in their 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, pretty well set in their way and very unusual for anybody to change, especially when it comes to giving up their life to Christ. You generally don't see it at that age and hear about it. But after I do this video seminar, I'm going across the street to the Italian restaurant. I ran across a friend. He's a cartoonist, and he's 87 years old. And I ran across him last night. I went and got some spaghetti. And then I saw him, and it was his 87th birthday. And we got talking, and I spent 3 hours talking with him, and he was asking me all kinds of things about the Bible and God, and very in-depth. And tonight, he's having some friends come over, and I'm going to bring a Bible. I asked him, I said, would it be all right if I gave you a Bible on your birthday? And he said, oh, yeah, I'd love to have it. So his name is Ed. So pray for Ed that he will be one of the ones that do hear the things of God. And I will be bringing this to him. And who knows, maybe the last time he will hear of the things of God, and he could change just as Zedekiah did. Hopefully he will do the opposite of what Zedekiah did. And Zedekiah said to him, to Jeremiah, well, let no man know from out of these words, and you shall in no way die. And if the rulers should hear that I spoke to you, and they should come to you, and they should say to you, announce to us what you spoke to the king. You should not hide it from us. Then in no way will we do away with you. And what did the king say to you? And you shall say to them, well, I tossed my plea for mercy before the eyes of the king to not return me to the house of Jonathan, for me to die there, basically in the mire. And came all the rulers to Jeremiah as he left, and they asked him, and he announced to them according to all these words which the king gave charge to him. So the king tells him what to do, and he's obeying the king. Now, it's interesting because would you say that's a lie? Well, it wasn't completely the truth. And the king told him. So if you were like I suppose, some type of a soldier, and you were given orders, even though they may not be correct, you may not know, or you may know that they're not correct, you're going to go and you're going to do what your commander says to do. Whatever it is, not to question it. You just go ahead and do it. And this is basically what Jeremiah did here. He obeyed the king. And so these people that come against him to find out, they kept silent, for the true matter was not heard. Now, I put the true in there. Maybe I shouldn't, or the matter was not heard. Maybe I should scratch that out. I'm going to have to think about that one. So let me go down here and find strikeout and scratch that. And again, it's not doing it. And I don't know why it doesn't do that when I'm talking and wanting to do it. It seems like it doesn't want to work. It's a strikeout. There it worked. Okay. And Jeremiah stayed in the courtyard of the guard until a time of which Jerusalem was seized. So he did not have to go down into the pit. Abdul-Melech, the Ethiopian eunuch, not Ethiopian, he was a eunuch. I don't think he was, no, it didn't say. Well, maybe I did say he was Ethiopian. Abdul-Melech. Let's see. I have to go back up there. And Abdul-Melech. Let's see. It goes back up a little bit more. We'll find out if he was Abdul-Melech went forth now the king. And it doesn't say there. Oh, there it is. Wow. He's an Ethiopian. Just as the Ethiopian on the road to, I guess it was going in Gaza, and Philip came across him and ended up baptizing him. So we have two Ethiopian eunuchs. We should give them sainthood, if anybody. They were wonderful, wonderful men who were mistreated, treated poorly by becoming eunuchs, but yet they did the right thing. And so that's a wonderful sign that we have there. So in the next chapter it says the fall of Jerusalem. So we'll go in to find out what actually happened with Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 39. Hope you'll join us, and God bless.